Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and Alyx King here. Today is Wednesday, February the 6th, 2019. It's 8 a.m. in New York, 5 a.m. in Los Angeles, 1 p.m. in London. Sydney, Australia is at 12 midnight, but wherever you are in the world, thank you for joining us for another episode of LOA Today, your daily to happy. And Alyx and I thought we would try to do something a little different with this morning's show. Because we've been doing a lot of Q&As lately, and they're great. Nothing wrong with Q&As. We have a lot of fun with them for sure. But I had floated, aren't they fun, Alyx? I mean, they're great. I look
they're great.
Yeah, they're fabulous. But I had floated an idea to the co-host a couple days ago and made reference to it in, I think, both of the podcasts yesterday about an article that I had seen that showed that there was this company with these podcasts that were all fictional story podcasts, kind of like old-time radio. And they were being offered a gigantic amount of money to sell their entire collection of podcasts. And I thought, well, that means they've got some pretty good audience there. And I kept thinking about that, and I was saying, I wonder if we can create a story or a series of stories, perhaps, of our own fictional stories that might help more and more people, reach more and more people about the law of attraction, because we all love stories. I mean, stories are wonderful, right? I mean, don't we look for them? Well, you're the expert on that, because you do all these
I do every
TV
week
shows, right? You're always telling people in your listening audience on your podcast about what the latest spoilers are on the latest season opening episodes or whatever. Isn't that what you do?
Yep, that's exactly what I do.
Yeah, and you love it, and your listeners love it too.
Yep.
So. We were kind of toying with that idea of what can we create, and I put it out there to the co-hosts, and some of the co-hosts weren't quite as enthusiastic, but you and Tom in particular were really enthusiastic. So that's why I was thinking, well, you and I are doing this show today. Why don't we kind of get the whole project started, and at the same time, it's like I mentioned to you before the podcast started, how if you get a DVD of a movie, you get also, in some cases, you get special features where they show you like the making of the movie. Well, if we're going to have something about the making of this new short story kind of podcast thing that we're doing, then we actually have to have it. You have to have the footage. So why not get the footage started today, So
right.
I'm thinking, why don't we just start, from scratch? Like we're building this new first show, whatever the show is, and we'll start creating characters and, figuring out some plot lines and so forth and have some fun with it. What do you think?
I think it's a great idea.
All right. So we had kind of, and by the way, this is still a Q&A, so actually I have to make sure I'm actually tuned into that portion on Facebook. And I see Nasha saying...
And you got to hit record.
Well, I haven't hit record yet? Oh, boy. I'm glad I have you.
I didn't want to interrupt you.
No, fair point.
Recording has started.
Okay, now we're recording. This is good. I'm a little slow this morning. Everything's a little bit slow. The computer's running slow. I'm a little bit slow. Everything's a little bit slow, but that's okay. So
it's morning.
It's morning. There it is. So I don't see any questions yet. I see Nasha saying hello. Hello, Nasha. Hope you're doing well.
Hi, Nasha.
But we had talked yesterday, and I just came up with a working title of Cassie. I don't even know if Cassie is the right name for the character of our first show, but one thing I do know, I wrote a novel at one point, and I got a lot of lessons from my sister, who was a theater major in school, and she's also a playwright, and she wants to be a screenwriter. And I was just getting ideas about, how do you write good fiction? How do you tell a good story in writing? And in the process of doing that with her, one thing she taught me that really stuck with me is a single sentence. You don't tell a story, you show a story. Right? Because that's what happens in any kind of a good television program or movie. It's always shown to you. It's not explained to you, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's part of what we have to do. We have to figure out how to show the story. But more importantly, you have to start off with a couple of basics. You have to start kind of outlining things like, who are your characters and what are their characteristics?
Right.
And one of the things I learned really early is that we have a tendency to think about who the characters are in the context of what the story is going to be. But
Mm-hmm.
actually, I learned you have to do more than that. You have to make them a complete character. You have to give them a name, a place to live, an age, a gender,
Mm-hmm.
something they do for a living, what their interests are, what they love to do, what they
Mm-hmm.
don't like, like an entire
Exactly.
personality profile. Not that you're going to use all of it in the writing of whatever it is you're writing, but simply because when you have a clearer idea of it, it's like visualizing, right? The more that we
Yep.
clarify what we're visualizing, the more
Mm-hmm.
likely we're going
You
to be
got to
able to
paint the
attract it to our
picture.
lives. Got to paint it, yeah. So that's
Mm-hmm.
one thing we need to do is first identify who our main characters are going to be, and second of
Mm-hmm.
all, what do they like? What's their stuff? And then once we've done that part, then I think we can also start coming up with plot lines, which you and I exchanged a couple of emails, and you said you have a whole bunch of plot lines in mind.
Oh.
So I have an entire notebook here that I can fill up with characters and plot lines. Okay, so
Fantastic.
we have no lack of space to write this stuff down. So I've talked enough so far. I want you to tell me some of the things you've been thinking about in any particular order. Don't feel like you have to do characters first or something like that. Just tell me some of the things you've been thinking about, and then we'll just kind of zero in on this.
When you emailed me last night, I was thinking of this one situation I'm currently dealing with, not in my personal life, but a friend of a friend is dating a married man.
Oh dear, yeah.
So, yeah.
Good
And
television,
she,
but
yeah, I know. But so she's the other woman, but didn't believe she was the other woman the whole time.
oh
She
yeah.
believed that, the story that he was like, oh, we're getting a divorce. Now, first of all, if someone's getting a divorce, let them get the divorce and then
Mm-hmm.
work it out after.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But yeah, so she's just writing to my friend telling her, oh, I just found out they've been together the whole 2 years that we've been together. And I'm just like having flashbacks in my childhood because that's my dad all over.
Oh yeah. Right.
So it's like it's little stuff like that, but she's such a victim though. Like she
Mm-hmm.
plays the victim, so I can't even feel sorry for her. So that was one of the stories that I was thinking of. But lots of stories like that of women being put in difficult situations where men end up disappointing them, and then they end up falling for the same type the next time around and expecting different results, and that's the definition of insanity. So,
And it's also a definition of how things usually work because if we don't change our mindset, we keep doing the same thing over
yeah,
and over again.
yeah, exactly.
And it's not just in these kinds of dramatic situations. It's everything in our lives, everything that we
Yep.
deal with. If we don't change our mindset, we keep getting the same thing over and over again. And then I say, I don't like
hmm
that thing. We'll change your mindset. No, it's not my fault. Uh,
Seriously.
it actually raises an interesting question. Do we turn these into dramas or do we turn them into comedies? Because they can actually be both.
There's a genre called dramedy.
Dramedy? I hadn't heard that one.
Dramedy,
Okay,
yes.
so comedic drama then.
Yep.
Now, can you give me an example of that? Because I can't say I've ever been able to say I knew what that
You don't
was.
watch anything I watch, so I don't know. Okay, let me think
By
of
the way, I did
movies.
have to tell you, you mentioned to me that what was it, the Christmas story? And I did
You asked
check with,
Louise?
I asked Louise about it. She had heard about it. She doesn't watch it either.
Oh, thank God. Me neither.
And she couldn't even tell me who the actors were. And Louise always knows the actors.
Exactly.
So, I mean, if she couldn't tell me who the actors were, it was nobody. Nobody we'd ever heard of. It had to be.
Right.
Because if it was anybody,
Right.
she would have been able to tell me.
Exactly. It's no there's no Brad Pitts in there. There's no it's they're in that movie and
That's all
that
they
was
did.
it for them. Yeah.
And from what Louise was saying and from what you were saying, it sounds like it's with good reason.
Yeah. But we are probably the only ones that think that because America like lives for a Christmas story at Christmas time. Like they play it back to back to back for 24 hours on two channels
Really?
and every year. Yeah.
Well, there is a lot of what Louise calls schlock out there. There's no doubt about that. But why do you think people like to watch it so much? Do you have any ideas?
Nostalgia because it came out during their childhood.
But there were other things that came out during that era, because I grew up in that era. There were a lot of things that came out that were much better than that. I don't
I
understand.
don't know. I don't know. I don't get the whole thing, so I couldn't tell you. I'm just like, oh, it's on again.
I mean, because that's how I ended up on this project. Because I told you about that company that was thinking of buying out the other company. And I actually went to check out one of the shows that they had. And the show didn't impress me at all. I thought, this is really dull.
Right.
This is boring. And it's got a huge following. And what I ended up concluding was, it wasn't that the story was this great storyline, because it wasn't. And it wasn't like the acting was this great acting, because it was like, it was okay. It wasn't bad. The production values were high. But the acting was just sort of like ho-hum. It was that it was showing the story instead of telling it. And in the world of podcasts, that's extremely unusual.
Yeah, that's rare.
I think that's what it was. Not that it was a great show. It's just that it was doing something nobody else was doing. And that's it, So it seemed to be well.
They just want to get in on the ground floor of something innovative.
Exactly. And do they have a big budget behind them? Absolutely they do. They've got millions behind them. They're being backed by the American Broadcasting Corporation. I mean...
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And they still managed to put out schlock, which is really amazing. But my point is, I mean, if they can put out schlock, we can put out even something that's a little bit better than schlock and being on the ground floor.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
So, I have to tell you, too, this is the first time in my life I've ever used the word schlock in a sentence. So this is
I was
really
going to say, I've never heard you use that word. I've never heard that word in my life, but here we are.
In fact, I had to ask Louise, what exactly is schlock? Because I've heard it before, but I didn't really have a knowledge. She said, it just means crap.
I mean, I get the gist of it.
Yeah, it's pretty clear what it is.
Yeah.
It's sort of onomatopoetic. It sounds like what it is, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
All right, so you laid out one really good plot. Anything else that, plots or characters or anything that came to your mind?
I'm very interested in the men that we're going to create for this show, because they've got to be charming. They have to be, they have to be charming. They have to be, you know what I mean? Because you got to believe their story. You got to believe what they're telling you in the moment, and to the point where you're blinded the whole relationship until what? You're married? When do you see your wife? You're always here.
It's a good point. Yeah.
That type of thing. So I'm very interested in doing that. So I actually, when I was younger, I want to say about 17, was going to write a play.
Really?
About my father and all his shenanigans and situations.
No kidding.
I started writing it and it was getting good. This was like the beginning of me writing my comedy. Like, this is how I got into writing comedy.
No kidding. Okay.
Yeah. So I started writing the play, and I was at my computer every day, clocking away, and then I realized, okay, because I had already visualized me becoming famous for this. And I was like sitting in Oprah's chair, and I was like, this is going to embarrass the rest of my family. And they're going to, once I become famous, they're going to realize who the author is and who the story is really about. And then they're going to realize who I'm related to. And this is going to embarrass the rest of my family who aren't as open about this situation as I am. So I stopped writing.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, you know what? It's not going to be a good idea. They'd probably be mad at me for putting this story out. So let me pause.
No, I can understand that. You certainly, I mean, you're still connected to your family, and you want to maintain peace, and that makes a lot of sense. I guess. Yeah,
I wasn't so concerned about my father being embarrassed. You dug your own grave.
Right.
I was more concerned about my brother and sister, and the reaction that they would get from my audience, because I was already that deep into it.
I guess where that's concerned, I guess you have to become the true fictional writer and take the story and then change it around so that it's not really the same story as what you actually lived. So it becomes different, and the characters are all different names and so forth. So there's like an
Oh, the
illusion to
characters
it.
definitely had different names.
Yeah, yeah.
That was the first thing I
The
did.
first thing you did, yeah, okay.
That was the fun. That was the fun of it, is creating
Mhm.
the characters' names, because I was like, all right, I don't want it to rhyme with the actual person's name, so I was like, all right, let's start thinking of names. And I started going to like bouncingbaby.com and looking
Right.
at names, and yeah,
Yep.
it was a good time. It was a good
I
time.
did the same thing when I was writing my novel. In fact, I realized early on what I wanted to do was to come up with names that were representative of who the person was. So I was looking at meanings of names. Did you do that?
Yeah.
You did the same thing, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But I did mine in my own way, not like the actual meanings of names, but like how they sounded to me. Like if I was looking for like a girl who would not take the better care of herself, and she's got like 4 or 5 baby daddies, and you know, I'm looking at like a Keisha or something that ends in Isha, because that's those are the more ghetto names of the Black community. Is that they're always ending in Isha.
Isha.
So,
That's true,
Yeah.
actually. At least in terms of what I've seen on the TV shows, it's the names they've selected for those.
exactly.
Yeah. What's the one that Louise watches all the time? It's from the 90s. Living Single,
Oh, that's my show.
right? I mean, almost all the names are ending in Isha, right? In that one?
Yeah.
So there's an example of it.
Yep. Oh, that was a good show. That was the beginning of Queen Latifah's acting career.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? That's right. Yeah. Yeah, quite a launching pad that was. It's interesting, too, how there are so many of these shows that an actor comes in, it launches their career, and they become somebody really famous. Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks comes to mind. When he very early on, he was a cross-dresser in his first role.
Oh my goodness!
But it launched his career, and it produced an amazing movie career.
Well, they say you have to do that at least once in your career in order to be a successful actor. So.
I don't think that's exactly what he had in mind, but yes.
I don't think so either, but you know, Wesley Snipes did it, so.
Yeah, sure, yeah. So, who knows? Hey, how's this for a cool thought? We create this show, the first one, whatever the first one is, and we get a lead character, and the actor for the lead is really, really good, and it launches her career.
Ooh.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Then we'd really be on Oprah's couch.
Absolutely.
Because we'd be the Shonda Rhimes and the J.K. Rowlings of the world.
Oh, that's fun.
Because nobody talks about Meredith Grey on Grey's Anatomy. Everybody talks about Shonda Rhimes and how she created
Oh, she
the
created
show.
it, yeah.
So, yeah.
I don't know anything about Game of Thrones. I know that it's really popular, but I know nothing about the storylines or anything. But I do know, having seen a picture of what the guy looks like who created the thing. That's the only thing I know about the show, is what the creator looks like.
Yeah, I don't even know about that. I am like one of the very few people in the world that have never seen Game of Thrones.
Nice to meet you. I'm the other one.
Okay. Nice to meet you. I did see part of one episode and I was like, no, this is too much for me. I can't handle the gore, the sex.
I'm not
It's
interested.
too much.
Yeah.
No.
To me, that much drama. When you have to put that much drama into a story, the story's been lost. That's the way I look
Yeah,
at it.
yeah.
Uh,
But people are loving it. Like,
Oh, yeah.
this is the last season and people are upset.
I'm sure. Yeah, when you have that many fans who are that rabidly attached to something, that's going to happen every time.
Mm-hmm.
And you can look at any really, really popular show and see that. It's not the same kind of genre at all. It's a completely different genre. But Downton Abbey. When Downton Abbey finished their 6th season, people were just like, well, you got to do more. Is there going to be a movie? When's the movie going to come out,
Spoiler alert, they're doing a movie.
It's coming out in September.
Yep.
Yeah. We knew about that.
And that's how my show works.
We knew about that one. I mean, normally I don't check this stuff out, but we knew that one before it was even announced because Louise was following it so closely. So
Yeah. Well, Mom just finished the series, so she was like, I need more. And then my other friend, she's obsessed with it. She watches it over and over and over. And I'm like, I don't get what's the draw? I was like, I don't do period pieces, so I can't.
That's exactly what it is. It's that it's period.
Yeah.
It's about the clothing and the
Yeah.
mannerisms and what their thought processes were at that time, and how by today's standards it's all very backward, but for then
Yeah.
that was cutting edge at that particular point in time.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at it that way, Louise loves that so much. In fact, she did the Sunday show with me because
Mm-hmm.
Anne-Marie and Mike wanted to watch the Super Bowl. And so we said, okay, we'll go watch the Super Bowl, and I'll bring Louise on, which is only appropriate because she's the one who started the podcast with me 6.5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up talking about a number of things where relationships were concerned, but we also alluded to the fact that she watched the Downton Abbey series, and I kind of came in later on. And
Mm-hmm.
actually, it ties in directly to what we just talked about, because the earlier seasons, the first 2, 3, maybe part of the fourth seasons rather,
Mm-hmm.
were
Mm-hmm.
so soap opera-ish, so high drama
Mm-hmm.
and so forth. And it's like one chaotic catastrophe after another.
Yeah.
And I couldn't stomach it. But then they got into a healthier mode in seasons 5 and 6. And by season 6,
Mm-hmm.
it was actually a lot of feel good. And I'm thinking, okay, this is interesting. So like she described on Sunday, whereas before
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of walked past when she was watching the program, now I was stopping and looking at the screen with her. And it finally got to the point where I'm sitting down and watching because the episodes had gotten better. They actually were real
Yeah.
storylines, So, yeah, I think that illustrates it beautifully. The story is what carries it, in my view. It's not the
Yes.
drama and the chaos and confusion and all that kind of crap, schlock.
See, for me, it's both.
You like
I
both?
feel like that is the story, the drama and the chaos.
Okay. Well, apparently that's true for a lot of people.
Like did you ever hear the show Dynasty?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, they brought it back,
Did they really?
and it's amazing. Totally, new characters and everything else, but same plot line, same, different actors, but same characters.
Well, it would have to
So,
be different
my mom's
actors,
like-
because if they did the actors
Yeah,
now,
obviously.
they'd be in their wheelchairs. So,
Yeah. So my mom's trying to explain to me how it was back in the day, and she's like, "Oh, that's how Alexis was back in the day. This is the drama that we dealt with." And I'm just enjoying the show, like as a show in a separate entirety in my era. So you have fun from both ends.
I guess.
So it's great.
Yeah. Well, I didn't watch
Mhm.
Dynasty even then. I knew what it was. You couldn't be
Yeah.
alive in the United States at that time and not know what Dynasty was. It's
Because
like
that was the 80s, right? It was big in the
it's
80s.
the 80s, yeah.
Okay.
It was like not
Yeah.
knowing what Dallas was. Everybody knew who J.R.
Yeah.
Ewing was. I mean, you didn't have to like
Yeah.
him, but everybody knew who J.R. Ewing was. And,
They tried to bring that back too. It didn't work out so well.
which is interesting because they're very similar. They're similar programs in many ways.
Yeah.
But
I don't know
yeah.
what the hook is, but
With
this
with-
Dynasty seems to be working.
Dallas?
They did a lot of reboots this year.
I think the hook with Dallas was Larry Hagman because he just did a wonderful, mean, nasty J.R. Ewing. I think that's what drew everybody in every time. He was a fabulous actor. He was really, really something. But he also got kind of typecast from that point on. He'd actually had some pretty nice roles. He was in I Dream of Jeannie. People don't even realize that.
Who did he play in I Dream of Jeannie?
He played Colonel, what's his name, Jeannie's love interest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But
So now I know who you're talking about.
You would never make the connection that J.R. Ewing? No way.
So that was JR?
That was JR.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's the same guy.
Okay, I'm starting to have flashbacks. All right. Because I loved I Dream of Jeannie growing up. Granted, it was on Nick at Night when I was, watching
Oh, sure,
it.
yeah.
But
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I was not huge into watching TV, but you know how when you're sick and you're staying home from school, that was the program that I wanted to come on. Because
Yeah.
we didn't have programs on demand, so you just kind of lived for, well, when's I Dream of Jeannie going to come on? That was one of the few you really wanted to watch when you were sick at home.
Yeah. For me, it was I Dream of Jeannie, and then after that, Bewitched. I was like, yes, let's get all my
Bewitched, yeah, that
magic
was another one.
in 1 hour.
Elizabeth Montgomery, she was terrific. I really liked her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so we got to get back to our shows here. So we got to create our shows.
Yes.
So, okay, so you've laid out one interesting storyline. What do you want to do? Do you want to try to create some more storylines, or should we start putting some characters together?
You know what? I'm trying to think if I want this to be like like a bunch of different situations for one character, or if I want it to be like a bunch of mini stories for different characters. You know what I mean?
Okay. All right. Well, there are a couple ways to look at it. First of all,
Mm-hmm.
even when we're creating one particular storyline, the storyline, in my view, typically what happens with most of the series that you see is
Mm-hmm.
they develop a storyline and they just keep repeating that storyline. And
Mm-hmm.
while that becomes very popular because it taps into different mindsets and so forth that people are used to, if the characters don't grow, it actually gets stale. Whereas the
Yes.
really
Yes.
successful series, like the first one that comes to my mind is MASH, the characters were all growing in that series,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that, how long that lasted? It lasted like 12, 14 years, something like that, because the characters kept developing over time.
Mm-hmm.
So Hot Lips
Mm-hmm.
wasn't always the Hot Lips that she was early on. She became a full human being by the end of the show. Hawkeye
Mm-hmm.
wasn't just this you know crazy troublemaker all the time. He actually developed into a real personality as well.
Mm-hmm.
Radar developed like crazy. I mean, it was just the whole thing
Mm-hmm.
was people developing and growing over time. So the way I look at it is, no matter whether we treat it as one great big story with individual
Mm-hmm.
subplots in it or a series of stories, either way, the most important thing is, do the characters grow? If the characters are
Yes.
going to grow, then it doesn't matter. You can actually do both ways. I mean,
Mm.
Mary Tyler Moore had spin-offs, right?
Facts.
There was I can't
I'm a
remember what
fan
they
of
were
the
all called.
spinoff.
Yeah, and they were successful spin-offs because the characters
Mm-hmm.
kept developing. So
Mm-hmm.
that to me is really the important part. I think it'll actually just kind of fall into place whether or not it's is it subplots within one story or is it multiple stories. It'll just kind of take care of itself, I think.
Okay.
But that's just my take on it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking with we came up with this hypothetical character Cassie, this
Mm-hmm.
codependent character who is constantly hooking up with the wrong man and relationships never go the way she wants them to go, and then she's constantly posting on Facebook asking for help and all this other kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. If she just stays in that mode all the time, that'll last for quite some time, but it'll get stale. But
Yeah.
on the other
I can already
hand,
see myself going, oh, come on.
exactly,
Again.
yeah, yeah. At some point, don't you ever learn?
Yes, exactly.
Right. But if, on the other hand, we're able to craft some storylines where she reaches some point of understanding, she doesn't have to get
Mm-hmm.
everything. She doesn't have to become a
Mm-hmm.
completely healthy, whole individual all in one fell swoop. But if she can make like
Right.
little steps toward that each time,
Mm-hmm.
that becomes interesting. Because
Yes.
now we're looking forward to, hey, she's actually growing into a real, self-contained, fully self-confident young woman. That's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like that.
Okay. So let's see. Where do we go with this? Oh, by the way, Siraj had an interesting comment. Everybody's been commenting in the background as usual, which is cool. We love that. Siraj says, I just recall one thought on this. If you want to stay in my life, the door is open. If you don't want to stay in my life, the door is open. But one request. Please don't stay in the door because you are blocking the traffic.
Facts.
I
Facts.
love that.
I live by that. Mm-hmm.
That was very good. But the rest of it is just
I
like
take it
people
a
just
step further and say, if you don't want to stay in my life, please climb out the window.
yes, right. It's a little bit more passive aggressive, but that's okay. Sometimes people do deserve a little passive aggressive. So okay, well, let's see. So are we going to develop characters next, or are we going to come up with more themes we
Sure,
want to
let's
do?
develop some characters.
All right, so let's go with the theme that you described: the woman dating the married man, playing the role of the victim, and how that plays out. So we need a leading
Mm-hmm.
character in that. Our leading character is the
Yes.
woman. Let's
Um,
name her first.
okay. Hmm.
So this is lead character. Actually, before we assign characteristics, let's describe her. What's she like? I mean, we know that
Physically or
in any way we want to describe her.
personality. Okay.
The answer is yes.
Well, I would say, see, this is the thing. They're always smart,
Okay.
but naive.
Smart but naive. So what does that mean?
Mm-hmm. Meaning that, in their regular job, they're like at the top of their game, but like in their personal lives, they'll fall for anything,
Professionally successful in some way.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right. Personal life is a bit of a mess.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. I'm making notes, and I'm not a fast writer, so that's what takes me a while here. Okay, so she's smart.
Take your time.
But professionally smart, but personally a kind of a mess. What else can we say about her?
Mm-hmm. Also, not so street smart. I think that's what makes her naive.
Not street smart. Now, talk about street smart. What exactly is that? I mean, I think we all have kind of a big sense of it.
There's difference between book smart and street smart. Okay. And book smart is like, you can retain information, you can apply things to regular life, but street smart is like you can see through people's bullshit. Like, you know what I mean? It's that type of thing. It's knowing things for what they are without having to study.
So, not being street smart, meaning in this case, she can't see through other people's BS.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's a good description. Oh, and I have to interrupt because Sarah gave us a comment, not directly related to this, but that was kind of sort of related. She says... So
everything's related.
It is, yeah. So I started reading the magic, she says. I have a magic stone. I have the 3 relationships I'm truly grateful for and list several things, what I'm grateful for within that relationship. And I say the magic words, thank you, thank you, thank you. Also, every night before I go to sleep, I think back at all the positive things I'm grateful for and pick the best. So, very good, Sarah. That's nice.
See, I was doing that on my own, but I do that when I wake up. I'm like, what's new today? Like and then I was like, okay, I bought something new yesterday, and I'm grateful for that. So that's what's new today.
Oh, and Nasha has a question. She
says, what's your question, Nasha?
She says, when we put something in the vortex, how long does it take to manifest?
Ooh. It takes as long as it takes.
Yeah, pretty much.
There's no set time limit on anything. So, because time is a construct. Mm-hmm. So. Mm-hmm.
It's true. It's true. The way I like to answer that question is along this line. It isn't so much how long does it take for the universe to deliver it to you. It's how long does it take for you to let it in.
Mm-hmm.
Because the universe loves speed. I mean, if you don't have any resistance at all, it'll show up like that.
Right.
So when it's not showing up, it means that you're resisting it in some way. And that's the question I always have to ask myself. Okay, if something isn't showing up that I want, where is my point of resistance? And sometimes I don't know. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I just can't figure it out. I mean, the best advice I get from all the co-hosts who are life coaches is, well, look within, ask your higher self or your inner being or whatever questions about whatever it is. Why am I resisting? Mm-hmm. What's in the way? How can I get rid of it? All that kind of thing. And listen for the answers. And very often you'll be able to find out what it is that way. And sometimes that works for me. Sometimes sometimes it doesn't get there. But it inevitably comes down to me resisting, me blocking in some way, that maybe through some tape that I've recorded over the years because I was taught it from a young age, or I absorbed it from watching the adults when I was growing up or whatever. But whatever it is, something is in the way, and that something is what's blocking the thing from manifesting. And when it finally shows up, this is what's really cool about the universe. You can even have blocks in the way, and it can still get through. It just takes a while. It's kind of like the image that was, I thought the best one that was presented to me was water running through a stream with rocks in the way, and the water just kind of works its way around the rocks, right? Mm-hmm. That's pretty much what source energy tries to do. It tries to find whatever the path of least resistance is to deliver the water to wherever you're going.
Right.
The same thing is true about manifestation. So when stuff isn't showing up, it means we've done a pretty darn good job of damming up the water. Right?
Yeah.
So that's my
Yeah,
answer.
holler at your self-conscious. I mean, not subconscious, not self-conscious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's subconscious and conscious, too. I mean, it's actually both. Neville Goddard talks about how really the two are part of the same thing. We differentiate between conscious and subconscious because it's easier to think about it that way. But really, the subconscious is part of the conscious.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we don't like to think about it that way, but it really is. Because at every moment,
It is, or
every
it wouldn't
day,
have the word conscious in it.
this is true. This is very true. So that, and to me, that's encouraging.
Yeah.
Because that means we can take control of it. It may not be something we can easily take control of directly because it feels like, the tapes are playing outside of our control. But ultimately, through meditation and various positive affirmation practices and so forth, we can take control. We can rewrite it. We can change it. And in so doing, we take the... You referred to victimhood. There's a victimhood feel about it where I'm not in control. It's in control of me. Well, actually, we are in control of it. And as we learn to do that, we stop being victims, which is really cool. We learn how to be self-empowered, self-controlled, self-directed, happy, abundant, and thriving human beings, which is exactly where we all want to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Hopefully that helps you, Nasha.
I was just going to say that.
Well, maybe you should be the host. You're good at this,
I'm not pressing all those buttons.
Oh, now she has a follow-up.
Oh.
She says, and one more thing, after reading Into the Magic Shop, I can feel major changes from within, but then again, I'm going to sleep. Every time I do the Ruth relaxation exercise, Ruth is one of the characters in that book, I just pass out. Is it healing me from inside? And I say the answer to that is it's exactly like learning to meditate. And I say that as somebody who is not an expert in meditation. I have that exact problem. When I try to meditate, I almost always go to sleep. and I've been assured by people who are experts at meditation, including many of my co-hosts, that's perfectly fine. That's part of the process of learning to be a meditator. So don't worry about falling asleep. You're still doing the right things. You're doing the changing in your mind. And if you're falling asleep in the middle of it, hey, fine. You're helping to reprogram your subconscious mind and your unconscious mind.
That's just a deeper meditation, man.
Yeah. Good way to say it. Exactly. And Sarah has a question. Any tips on stopping the blocking or advice on knowing if you are blocking? What do you think?
I believe we talked about this yesterday. I'm trying to remember what Kelly said. I think she said ask for guidance from your higher whatever or your inner whatever, depending on what you believe. Yeah. And then to, see, yes, that's what it was. And then see what you get back. And if it feels good, then you're on the right path. If it feels bad, then you're resisting.
Right. I agree. Yeah. Back when Wendy Dillard, you never actually met Wendy, I don't think, or heard her stuff.
No.
But when Wendy Dillard was doing the podcast with me, she talked often about kind of grilling the block. Even if you don't know what it is, just ask it all kinds of questions. What's your message for me? Why are you there? What are you all about? What are you upset about? What's the feeling that you're asking me to feel? What's this negative thing that you're wanting me to feel? So I can go in and feel it, get a sense of what it is, and then release it. Because that's the goal. Just keep coming at it in all the different angles you can. Ask your inner being. Ask inside. Listen for answers. Just come at it every single way you can. And if you do that, from a perspective of I'm going to feel better when I'm done, you end up dissolving it. It ends up kind of going away after a while.
Yeah.
How long is it going to take? I can't tell you. I don't know how long it'll take you to work through the whole thing, but that's what happens.
Yep.
Right?
You chip away at the block.
You chip away at it. Yeah, exactly. And then Nasha's also asking, can we have a session with Linda about the book Into the Magic Shop and see what she, me, or the viewers or anybody else understand about it? And yeah, sure. We're in the middle of doing a series of 5 meditations that Linda is leading. I believe this week's is the 4th, but I will make a note to share with Linda that you're looking for her insight on that. Maybe it's something we can kind of slip in. We always have like the first 5 or 10 minutes while we're giving people a chance to show up for the podcast and before we
get ready, yeah.
meditation, right? So maybe I can get her to give a quick answer on during that. And then Nasha also says, but Walt, I've done meditation several times being a holistic healer, but this knocks me out completely. So yes, been in deeper meditation and astral travel, but this is different. And I'm not quite sure what the difference is. Asking, am I explaining myself well? Tell us more about what that difference is that you see, Nasha, and we'll see if we can address that. That's the best I've got right now. I'll keep an eye open for that while we're doing our character development.
Yes.
So we have a couple of ideas about this character. She's smart, but a little naive. She's not street smart. She can't see through BS. But professionally, she's a very intelligent person. Okay, so we know that much about her. Do we have a name for her yet?
I want to say Nancy, but she goes by Nance.
Nance. Oh, I like that. So Nance is her name. How old is she?
32.
32. Okay. Where does she live?
I don't know. I'm prone to the East Coast because that's where I'm from, but
that's all right. It can be anywhere, but
I see a lot more dramatic male problems in LA.
In LA, okay. So she's from LA. All right. What does she do for a living?
I see more fakeness out there.
She's a smart professional. So what does she do?
She is what do you call those people that like handle celebrities? Begins with a P.
I'm not sure. Like a, not like a coach. You mean like
no, it's
a promoter?
And it's not an assistant either. A what?
A promoter?
No.
An agent?
Kind of an agent. Yeah. Yeah, she can be an agent. Okay.
An agent? So like a talent agent?
Yeah. Sure, yeah.
Okay, so she's a talent agent.
Which is ironic because you should be able to see through people's bullshit if you're a talent agent.
You would think. Well, we could always modify later on if we find that a particular aspect doesn't work. But hey, for the moment, we're just brainstorming, so that's okay. All right, so she lives in Los Angeles. She's 32. Her name is Nance. She's a talent agent who is smart but a little bit naive. She's not street smart. What else can we say about her? But tell me about her family.
Her family.
Yeah.
I would say she's recently divorced.
Ah, okay. That kind of makes sense. Is she obsessed about being single?
No, opposite. She doesn't like being alone.
Doesn't like being alone. Okay. Right. What kind of interests does she have? Does she have hobbies?
Let's see. What kind of interest does she have? Well, being a talent agent, I feel like she goes to a lot of red carpets.
Okay. That's going to be a lot of fun to actually dramatize in a radio type scenario.
As Beyonce walks behind her.
I love it. Is she a star hunter?
Well, that's her job.
But I mean, is she starstruck? Like, is she somebody who just gets so thrilled whenever she sees a star? Not just.
No. It's part of her job. So
it's like her everyday thing. So she's so used to it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So she actually is a fairly high-powered talent agent. She's not like starting out. She's got some success. She's got some stars in.
She's got some shows under her belt. Yeah.
Okay.
A couple of movies.
Okay. Right. What other interests does she have?
Uh, I want to say she's a soccer enthusiast,
A
even though I know
soccer enthusiast.
nothing about soccer.
Why soccer? That's interesting.
I don't know. That's just what came to me. Like I see her on like I don't know what day soccer comes on, but
Well, you
with
say
like sitting on her couch with a jersey on.
you say she's divorced. Is she a single mom?
She could be, yeah.
Because that would the soccer
Yes,
angle would make
yes,
sense
yes. She
there.
is a sing. Yes,
Because now she's not just a career woman; she's also a soccer mom.
yes. I like that.
Okay, so she has one child,
Two,
children. Okay,
two childs.
two childs. Yes, right. That's what I started to say. And their names are.
Ooh, okay. That would depend on who the father is and what their nationalities are.
Well, maybe we got to go back to who the ex is.
Yeah.
All right, so let's leave Nance for a bit. Let's talk about the ex. So, what's the ex's name?
Okay.
And you said he's got to be a somewhat likable character, so we got to keep that in mind.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's the good guy in this story. He got the shaft via Nance.
Oh, okay, interesting. So he wasn't.
This is how this.
So he wasn't one of the abusive types.
No,
Interesting. Okay.
which is what makes it interesting. Is it's kind of the grass is greener on the other side, and then you find out it really isn't type story.
Okay. All right. That's good. So let's see. What's his name then? If she's Nance, he's what? He's a good guy. I'm going to make a couple of those notes.
Mm-hmm. No, Brett.
Brett? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Brett and Nance.
Yeah, Brett and Nance. I like that.
Grass is greener on the other side. I got to write that one down.
Mm-hmm.
Siraj wrote down casting couch. Like, wait.
Oh no.
I think we saved that after
Siraj
we
is
developed the
terrible.
purpose of it. Jeez.
That's a whole different series.
Yeah, I think it is. Nasha says she's rewiring her brain. Good. That's good. All
And
right.
that takes some time.
It does. Yeah. You don't get it done all at once, right?
Yeah.
All right. So Brett's a good guy. What else is he? Is he successful in his career?
Yeah, but it's not like a successful career you would consider like a high paying career. It's
Like
he's
she was the
an
successful
electrician
talent
or
agent.
something.
He's a what?
He's like an electrician or something.
Electrician. Okay, so he's not like a talent agent like she is. She's got the glamorous
No.
career.
Yeah.
He's got a mundane, everyday career.
Right.
Okay, so he's an electrician. And I guess we're kind of describing a fairly stable guy, which isn't that it's too boring for her. That's one of the reasons that she left. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So he's too boring. What else can we say about him? What are his interests? What is he like?
He's the one who got her into soccer.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So he got Nance interested in soccer. And they have the two kids, both of whom are into soccer as well because of that connection.
Mm-hmm. They're a soccer family.
They're a soccer family, or they were anyway, till they got broken up. What else can we say about him that helps us define who the children are? Because that's where we got stuck. We were trying to figure out how to name the kids. And we said, well, it depends who the father is.
He's going to be Spanish, which is why he's into soccer.
Okay, so he's Hispanic. Right? Which probably means he calls it football rather than soccer.
Facts.
Right? And what is it about being Hispanic that influences who he is as a father?
it does. I don't. I don't. No.
So being Hispanic is actually just a minor piece of who he is. He just happens to be
Yeah.
Hispanic, and that's it. Okay.
That just paints the picture of
Okay.
the nationality of the kids for me.
So if Nance was 32, how old is Brett?
Brett is 30.
30. Is it Brett or Rhett?
Brett.
Brett. It is
With
with
a
a
B.
B. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So he's age 30. He's the younger man. Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And what are his interests? I mean, we know he's interested in soccer or football. What else is he interested in?
I would say he works for someone, but he wants to start his own
Okay.
electrician business or whatever you call that.
So he's not self-employed, but he wants to be.
Right.
Okay. What's holding him back?
Probably the financial stability that he has right now with his family,
Okay. So
and
afraid of,
risking it to go out on his own.
right. So he's afraid of financial instability.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So with that in mind, let's go back to their two kids. So what can we say about their
Okay.
kids? Two boys, two girls,
okay.
boy and girl. What are they?
Boy and girl,
Boy and
Lana and Brett Jr.
And Brett Jr. Oh my. I know what kind of weight that is. I'm a Walt Jr. I understand how that is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. And what's what's the most startling characteristics of Lana and Brett that get your attention when you think about them with Nance and Brett as their parents?
Lana has this gorgeous, dark, long hair.
Oh, okay.
Like her parents are the type. It has to do with the Hispanic part of him that she's never gotten a haircut.
Never gotten a haircut. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So it's like down to her butt type of hair.
Yeah. Do women still do that? I mean, that used to be something that was really popular when I was in school, but I don't see that.
Some people still do that.
Really?
I had to school my sister and let her know, like, you need to get them a trim every 6 months, like.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it'll break your hair.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. I do remember there were a couple of girls in the school who maintained hair like that, who really knew how to do it well, and their hair was gorgeous. I mean, I couldn't imagine maintaining hair like that, washing hair and all that. That must be a nightmare to try to do.
Oh my God!
But
you don't even want to know.
I definitely did not want to know. But I admire
once you get it wet, there's no going back.
Yeah, exactly. But they were good at it. I mean, there were two girls in particular I can think of who just, I mean, their hair was pristine. It was beautiful. And I thought, wow, how do you do that? Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so she has very long dark hair. What else can we say about her?
I'd say they both have piercing blue eyes.
Really? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I will make a note on piercing blue eyes. What kind of people are they?
They're good kids. They get good grades. I would say the boy probably struggles. I'm sensing some sort of dyslexia.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Dyslexia.
Because that could put a strain on the parenting.
Yeah,
deciding
absolutely.
what to do about that.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense. Does Lana have any issues going on?
Does Lana have any issues? I'm going to say later on she's going to have a little struggle with the divorce.
Okay. Well, they're already divorced.
Whereas,
so she's already been through that, or she's in the middle of it, perhaps.
Okay, then she's gonna start developing, issues with 2-parent households. No, other way around. The separation of the 2-parent household.
Oh, I see. Yes.
Yeah.
Two-parent households. All right. Well, our characters are starting to take form. This is good. This is very good. There's only one bad thing, and that is we're down to less than a minute left, so we'll have to carry this on within like next Wednesday or something, or by emails in between or something. But this is a good start. This is a good start. I like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. It shows how much work goes into this kind of thing, you know? It's not something that happens easily. You have to...
Because that was just 4 characters, and that took an hour.
I know. It takes a while. It's a challenge. It's a challenge. As I'm looking, I realized we actually started a few minutes late, so we actually have a little bit more than a minute. But I will take advantage to remind people who are listening, and if you're enjoying what you're hearing, this is the behind-the-scenes creation of a yet-to-be launched podcast, fictional, serial, old-time radio-style show. And Alyx and I are inventing it as we go. So, you know, if you're hearing something and you say, "Oh, I just saw something," you know, send us a note about it, or tune into the live stream and type in a comment and make this suggestion or that suggestion. Because, hey, why does it have to be just us? You guys can contribute it.
Everybody join in.
And if you're not a subscriber, well, that's probably the best way to find out, you know, what the next thing is that's going to happen in the development of this series, this serial. So become a subscriber. The instructions on how to do it are at the homepage, loatoday.net. And, you know, continue to share the fact that you're liking what you're hearing here. And isn't it cool to see a series being born? Because that's what's happening here. It's in the pre-being born series. It's in the state of conception. So we're
like, imagine if you could sit with J.K. Rowling in the beginning of Harry Potter.
Wouldn't that have been something?
Oh my God.
That would have been incredible. Of course, probably most of the time
died.
you would have gotten a lot of cold stares like, you know, leave me alone, I'm writing. But still, if you could get inside her head.
Yeah.
But that would be fun, yeah. So, you know, this is kind of a different thing. I don't think... Have you ever heard of a series of any kind that was portraying how another series was being created?
No.
I think this is kind of new, so we're doing...
Unless they do like specials after, like, not like the DVD specials, but like, for instance, was sticking with the Harry Potter theme, they did this special with where Malfoy ended up going to different fans' houses and seeing how they got started with Harry Potter. Like, they did a whole special on that.
Oh, no kidding.
So stuff like that, I've seen. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think this is probably the first one being done where it's being done before the series actually got created and launched. So I think
I would say definitely
we're breaking new ground here. So this is fun. Good. I'm glad we're doing this. Also want to remind people, you know, just because, like you saw during today's podcast or listened during today's podcast, we're still doing question and answer during it. But while we're waiting for other questions to come along, we're just going to continue doing the development of this new series. So it's all combined together. So don't feel free to show up and ask questions or send questions in that you want Alyx and I to answer on the podcast. And by the way, next week Kelly Pretty, who's been doing the Tuesday afternoon podcast, is going to join us on this one on the Wednesday morning podcast. So Alyx, I guess the next time you and I talk about this directly will be the Tuesday afternoon ones.
Okay.
But we got a little shift going on there, and we may actually even get another person on the Tuesday afternoon one as well. I have somebody who's expressed some interest. I'm going to have a conversation with him and see if it's a good fit. But I'll let you know what I find out. So
all right, cool beans.
So I will next be talking with you on Friday morning with Tom Wells, who's also a fan of this idea. So we can probably do a little more fleshing it out on Friday morning. He's got
an imagination on him, so I'm excited to see what he has to say.
Well, he was actually talking about just live streaming some, you know, make it up as we go along kind of thing. You know, so just like, you know, don't have a script, just start, you know, playing it out. And that sounds like a cool thing to try.
I don't know, that's too messy.
Well, I'll let you tell that to him. I thought it was an interesting idea. I think it's actually a little bit early. I think we have to develop some characters a little bit more to do that.
Yeah.
Because he's really into improv. He's done a lot of improv, you know, play type.
I have too, yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, so you know what that's like. You know, so we can probably do something similar here. I think, though, we really need to develop the characters a bit before we try to do that.
Yeah, I agree.
But it's going to be fun. So anyway, thank you very much for listening. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.